Members of Congress returned to Capitol Hill today after the 4th of July recess. Both the House and the Senate will stay in session through the end of the month before an August recess. And once again, government funding is back on the agenda. So joining me now with more on this is CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. They're always kicking the ball down the road, and then the road, well, we run out of road. Lawmakers have a lot to tackle this month. What's on their agenda?
Yeah, well, to your point, trying to get agreement on some of these spending bills is going to be key because there's really only about 12 legislative days that they will have to do business here in the Senate and the House this month before they go on that August recess. And then, of course, they'll come back in the fall with not a whole lot of time to try to reach a deal on spending. And, of course, Congress this time around does have to pass all of its spending bills. Otherwise, critical cuts could potentially go into effect based on the debt limit deal that was agreed to earlier this year. So the Senate has been working in a bipartisan basis on some of these spending bills. Keep in mind, Congress has to approve about 12 appropriation bills to fund the government for the entire year. The devil in the details is going to be in how the House deals with this, because many House Republicans, especially more conservative members, are actually wanting to fund the government at lower levels than what was agreed to in that debt limit package. And so Democrats and even some Republicans here in the Senate, think that it should be fully funded based on that agreement. And so if there's a logjam, if they can't get agreement, that's where there's the potential for a government shutdown later this fall if they can't reach agreement. But they've got to start having those conversations now. They've got to start moving on some of those bills now so they can get them to a good place this fall.
I know at some points there have been some members of Congress who have questioned the commitment to Ukraine, or at least the amount of money that's being spent. We know that now the Biden administration has agreed to provide cluster bombs to Ukraine. What's been the reaction?
Yeah, that's right. Well, it has been a pretty split reaction among many members of Congress, particularly more progressive Democrats who are really concerned about these munitions being given to Ukraine because they can indiscriminately kill people. And, if they don't detonate right away, then they are kind of like landmines where they could potentially go off at any given time. So they are very harmful. They've been banned in about 100 countries. Take a listen to what Virginia Senator Tim Kaine said on this issue over the weekend.
I would still say, though, I have some real qualms about it. If there's an international prohibition and the U.S. says, but here's a good reason to do something different, it could give a green light to other nations to do something different as well.
Now, the Biden administration has argued that these munitions are needed because, Ukraine right now is dealing with a lack of munitions right now. They've kind of been struggling to really gain a lot of ground against Russia. Russia has been using these types of bombs, and so therefore the U.S. feels that these munitions that they are providing them will be relatively safe under the circumstances. And even some Republicans concur, saying they think that the administration is doing the right thing here and that this could be potentially a game changer for Ukraine.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that Democrats are going to explore what he says, quote, they're going to explore every option to address Supreme Court ethics after reports of justices failing to disclose lavish gifts and vacations. We're talking about ProPublica doing some excellent reporting on Justice Thomas and Justice Alito. And what we learned from that reporting is a little bit the Supreme Court sort of manages itself when it comes to ethics. Is there enough support to pass anything substantive, though?
Yeah, that's a real question here. I mean, obviously, Republicans and Democrats have been divided over this issue, but it kind of has come to the fore once again in light of some of those ProPublica reports. But also, as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Dick Durbin, noted, his concern is that, especially after some of the rulings that we saw during this recess, most notably, the ending of affirmative action or race-based admissions in college admissions, and also other key decisions with respect to the president's student loan program and essentially overturning that. There is concern among Democrats that, look, you have the Supreme Court overturning decades of precedent, and yet, when it comes to their judicial ethics, they believe that there is room for improvement, given that you have some situations involving justices like Justice Alito and Clarence Thomas who didn't report certain gifts, and while they contend that they did nothing wrong. Many, especially Democratic lawmakers, feel that there should be stronger rules of the road for these justices when it comes to ethics, because they just feel that the optics aren't that great. And so they have been working on legislation. Right now, the Judiciary Committee is expected to mark up a bill. We're not sure what bill yet they may mark up, but there is one proposal, for instance, by Senator Whitehouse that would basically require the justices to establish a code of conduct and adhere to the same ethical standards that members of Congress have to adhere to when it comes to reporting gifts. So that's one bill that's under consideration, but many Republicans think that this is a matter for the Supreme Court, that they should police themselves and that Congress should stay out of it.
Really interesting. Nikole, thank you very much.
You bet.